Grammar and Mechanics Refresher. Although you will find a more comprehensive treatment of grammar and style in the APA Publication Manual, which is worth reading, especially if it has been a while since you have written a scholarly paper, the following list of common errors is a good place to start when editing your work. Please review your work carefully to ensure that none of the following problems appear in your work. However, keep in mind that this list is not exhaustive, and your instructor may have additional suggestions for improving your writing. Furthermore, you should use spell check and grammar check on every paper, but keep in mind that these functions occasionally miss problems and consider other things problematic that really aren't. Punctuation. The comma. Use commas when appropriate, but don't use them haphazardly. See APA for excellent examples of the proper use of commas. A comma indicates a natural pause, so try reading text aloud to see where the pauses should be. Examples. When we have gathered enough data, we can begin to determine if there are differences between groups. Mediocre discounted the importance of education, whereas brilliant, who most consider the more sophisticated theorist, stressed the necessity of education. In addition, APA style requires a comma after the second to last item in a series of 3 or more items, that is, the item before and. Educational researchers formulate hypotheses, gather data, and draw conclusions based on the data. Note that there is a comma after the first use of data. The semicolon should be used to join independent clauses. If a conjunctive adverb is also used, the adverb should also be followed by a comma. Example: the study had several strengths. However, random assignment to groups was not one of them. On a similar note, the word however and similar conjunctive adverbs such as moreover, nonetheless, and therefore is almost always followed by a comma. For example, therefore, we no longer have to rely on a single method for teaching students to read. The colon. At times, it is appropriate to include a list of items following a colon, if the phrase before the colon could be used as a sentence. However, all items in such a list must be the same grammatical form. For example, threats to internal validity are numerous: history, maturation, regression to the mean, mortality, and instrumentation. In this example, the phrase before the colon could be a sentence: threats to internal validity are numerous, and the items after the colon are in the same grammatical form, all nouns. Here is an incorrect example. The measures included STAR test, district benchmarks, and weekly tests. In this example, the items are in the same grammatical form, but the phrase before the colon is not a complete sentence. The measures included. No colon is needed. Correction. The measures included the STAR test, district benchmarks, and weekly tests. Incorrect example. Limitations of the study are the lack of generalizability, participants were not randomly assigned to groups, and there was no pretest. There are 2 problems with this example. First, the lack of generalizability is a phrase, while the other 2 list items are clauses. Second, there is no need for a colon after are. Correction. The authors acknowledge several limitations of the study: the lack of generalizability, non-random assignment to groups, and the absence of a pretest. The apostrophe. Be careful to use the apostrophe carefully, that is, in contractions or with the possessive case, except for possessive pronouns, not just with any plural noun. Pay close attention to plural possessive case. Examples. The student's name, singular possessive case, refers first to a single student. The students' names, plural possessive case, refers to multiple students. The students exceeded expectations, plural non-possessive, refers to multiple students. It's difficult to determine, contraction of it is. Its value can be seen in its ability to distinguish students who need help, possessive pronoun. The ampersand. This and sign should only be used in parenthetical citations, not as a substitute for the word and in the sentence itself. Correct examples. Smith and Jones explored the importance of mentoring for new teachers. In a study of mentoring programs for new teachers, Smith and Jones, 2009, participants reported that their mentors played a huge role in their socialization to the profession. Incorrect example. Smith and Jones found that mentor programs were beneficial for both new teacher mentees and their experienced mentors. In this example, both uses of the ampersand are incorrect. Grammar. Agreement of subject and verb. Singular subjects, for example, student, teacher, person, require singular verbs, for example, learns, instructs, understands. As a rule, a singular verb ends in an S. The most common problem with the lack of subject-verb agreement occurs when the subject does not immediately precede the verb. Examples. Correct. The teacher with 30 rambunctious students uses several classroom management strategies. Incorrect. The teacher with 30 rambunctious students use several classroom management strategies. If you aren't sure if your subject and verb agree, try reading just the subject and the verb aloud and see if the pairing sounds correct. Agreement of pronouns and their antecedents. Singular nouns require singular pronouns. For example, he, she, him, her, his, hers. Plural nouns, which usually end in an S, require plural pronouns. For example, they, them, their, theirs. It is a common mistake to pair a singular noun of unknown gender, for example, student, teacher, with a plural pronoun, for example, they, their. So be careful of this error. Here are some examples of incorrect usage and improvements. Incorrect. Each student will be rated on their comprehension of the material. Acceptable. Each student will be rated on his or her comprehension of the material. Better. Students will be rated on their comprehension of the material. Best. The teacher will rate each student's comprehension of the material. Note that this example also uses active voice rather than passive voice. Incorrect. When a teacher experiences a simultaneous increase in workload and decrease in paycheck, they may become discouraged. Acceptable. When a teacher experiences a simultaneous increase in workload and decrease in paycheck, he or she may become discouraged. Better. When teachers experience a simultaneous increase in workload and decrease in paycheck, they may become discouraged. Best. A simultaneous increase in workload and decrease in paycheck can cause discouragement among teachers. You might want to run the Find feature of Word and look for the terms they and their to ensure that you have used these pronouns correctly, that is, only with plural nouns. Which versus that. The pronoun which is used in non-restrictive clauses. A non-restrictive clause is a series of words that modifies a noun but does not restrict the meaning of the noun. For example, the students took the tests which I graded. In this case, which I graded is sort of an add-on. It's added or incidental information. Note that a non-restrictive clause is always preceded by a comma. In contrast, a restrictive clause is a series of words that restricts the meaning of the noun. The pronoun that is used in restrictive clauses. For example, the students took the tests that were timed. In this example, the clause that were timed tells you something essential about the tests. Note the difference between these constructions. The computers, which were new to the classroom, drew students' attention. The computers that were new to the classroom drew students' attention. Both sentences are correct, but the meanings are slightly different. In the first sentence, which were new to the classroom, is incidental. It could be taken out and the meaning of the sentence wouldn't change. The main idea is that the computers drew students' attention. In the second sentence, that were new to the classroom designates the specific computers that drew students' attention. There may have been other computers in the classroom, but the students' attention was drawn to those that were new. Similarly, use that or which when referring to objects and who when referring to people. The spelling test that students took was difficult. The students who took the spelling test were frustrated. Verb tense in the context of a literature review, including an annotated bibliography. A common error is the use of present tense when discussing studies that have already been conducted. Past tense is preferred. Examples: the authors found, the results suggested, genius and brilliant hypothesized that. Furthermore, scholars use active voice rather than passive voice. Example: active voice. Participants completed the study. Passive voice. Participants were given the study to complete. That, as a conjunction, is often omitted in spoken language, but it should not be left out of written phrases. Examples: the author suggested that the study had too many limitations to be credible. Respondents thought that there was insufficient time devoted to science instruction. Most of the participants believed that dual language instruction was valuable. Genius stated that the issue was severe enough to warrant attention. But Genius stated the problem is too big to be ignored. Choosing the correct word. Two of the most confused words are affect and effect. Part of the problem stems from the fact that both are nouns and verbs. Another problematic aspect is that the noun and the verb that essentially mean the same thing are spelled differently. Here is a quick guide. Affect, noun, expression of emotion. Note that this usage is rarely used except in the mental health field. Example: the student's affect was flat. Effect, noun, outcome. Example: one effect of the intervention was improved scores. Affect, verb, to influence or cause. Example: the intervention positively affected scores. Effect, verb, to elicit or bring about. Example: one way to effect change is to be an advocate. Several other words and phrases are commonly misused in research writing, and thanks to Dr. Jim LaBeouf for providing some of these. An example is comprises. The word comprises means includes or consists of. Thus, the class comprises 20 students. The intervention comprises multiple steps, etc. Note that it is incorrect to say is comprised of. The correct phrase is composed of or consists of. For example, the sample is composed of 30 participants, or the sample comprises 30 participants. Another example is the phrase as far as. This phrase is only correct when followed by a noun and is, was, are, were concerned. For example, as far as the salary increases are concerned, we do not yet know if there is enough money in the budget for them. It is incorrect to write, as far as the salary increases, we do not yet know, etc. However, it is correct to write as for followed by a noun without is concerned. For example, as for the salary increases, we do not yet know, etc. Finally, it is acceptable to use a noun as an adjective at times, for example, student outcomes or test results, rather than using the possessive, students' outcomes, tests results. However, you should use these sparingly. Furthermore, when a noun also has an adjectival form, make sure that you are using the correct form. Example: the correct word to refer to a group or person is disadvantaged, adjective, not disadvantage, noun. This concludes the Grammar and Mechanics refresher.